Yeah, so welcome to the Aster Workshop. I'm Nick Seaton, and I'm with the Native Plant Society. And today we're going to be going over different asters that are either in bloom or in a vegetative state. And so the idea of this workshop is so that afterwards you know a lot of the morphological characteristics of asters and how to key them out and some of the jargon that goes along with the tops of the ray and disc flowers and all the parts like that. So we brought a whole bunch of different samples today. First, we're going to start with Kurt's section, and he's going to go over a little slideshow that he put together and just cover all the parts, the morphological characteristics, and kind of get all the information into our heads so that we can apply it out in the field.
Thanks, Nick. Let's start our workshop out with a little bit of information in general about Asteraceae. Number one, the family is really variable in habit, so it's very difficult often to identify this family from just the vegetative material. They can be trees, shrubs, or vines. Most commonly, they're herbs. Now, one useful thing is to both look at the plant and smell the plant. So by taking a leaf and crushing it in your hands, you can do what's called the Asteraceae test and smell a certain resinous quality. Once you get used to it, it can be quite useful in identifying members of the family. This family is really weird in its flowers in that it has anthers, the male pollen-producing organs of the flower, that are fused around the style, and the style will push up through that collar of anthers to present pollen secondarily on the style. Very interesting, very small though, because as we will learn momentarily, this sunflower, as in this example, stereotypical for the family, is not a single flower. It's a whole inflorescence, and then in this picture, there might be dozens and dozens of flowers all together to make up the sunflower. The heads are surrounded by bracts known as phyllaries. That's very unusual. And these heads, these inflorescence types, are variable. They have different kinds of flowers all stuck together to create the flowering unit known as the sunflower, or capitulum. The sepals, or calyx, are highly modified to create a pappus in this family. And the flowers are various. Most commonly, they're ligules, rays, or discs. So because this inflorescence is a compound structure of multiple flowers, and these flowers are sessile, meaning that they are unstalked, they have no pedicel, they're all attached to this large point, which is actually a very broad, often cone-shaped or rounded flat surface known as the compound receptacle. As I mentioned a moment ago, heads are surrounded by particular bracts known as phyllaries. They're just bracts, but they have a special name for this family. Collectively, these bracts, the phyllaries, are known as the involucre, and in some cases, like in this member that might be Coreopsis or Bidens, you can see that some of the phyllaries here are different colored and different shaped than the phyllaries here, so they're dimorphic. Additionally, sometimes very tiny filiform bracteoles, or tiny bracts, subtend even this involucre. This is known as the Colliculus, and it's particularly common in members of Senecio and relatives. Sometimes we have many whorls of phyllaries that are all stacked on top of each other. Maybe they're in rows, maybe they are imbricate, alternating with each other and stacked like shingles or like fish scales. Sometimes this involucre consists of bracts that form a single whorl called uniseriate. And in some heads, we'll actually see that there are bracts inside the head, but typically we don't see bracts inside the head. If they are present, they're known as palea. So let's look at a few different kinds of heads based on the types of flowers held within. These are ligulate heads. They have specialized flowers that have 5 teeth, and they're all strap-shaped. When a head has ligulate flowers, it only has ligulate flowers. And these are all bisexual, all functional. Note that they can be different sizes, such that these are very large and these are very small. But commonly long, strap-shaped, very showy, and having 5 teeth apically in the corolla. Discoid heads, however, all consist of disc flowers. In ligulate heads, all ligule flowers. These discoid flowers are all radially symmetrical. They're tubular. And in this case, we can also see the filaries very beautifully. And we can see some of the pappus poking out, these long bristles. These long stalks are the styles exerting out of the flowers. Our last type of head that we'll discuss are the radiate heads. They don't consist of just ray flowers. They actually have disc flowers and ray flowers. We don't see, except in horticultural situations bred by humans, flower heads that have only ray flowers. Those don't really exist in nature. But this radiate head is extremely common. It's the most common type of head in the Asteraceae. It's got disc flowers and ray flowers. Ray flowers bear a superficial resemblance to ligulate flowers. However, these have 3 apical lobes instead of 5. There are some other differences, but to keep it simple, this is an easy way to distinguish them. The ray flowers are often sterile or maybe just female, and the disc flowers are often bisexual and fully functional. That's usually the case. Lastly, let's talk about the pappus. The pappus is a very variable structure within Asteraceae, and it helps identify major groups, especially at the genus or tribal level. The pappus is derived from sepals, and in many cases, it doesn't match the number of sepals that the flower should have. So, typically, the flower parts in Asteraceae are 5. So, 5 stamens, 5 petals, and we'd expect 5 sepals. That's typical for flowering plants to follow that syndrome of merosity. However, in this case, they can be 0, just a couple, like in this bidens, or numerous, such as in this member of the Asteraceae. Here, in this mature head, you can see the compound receptacle. You can see the compound receptacle here too. Each one of these little circles is the spot where a fruit was being held, and we can see the filaries at maturity spreading out. This is a fruit known as a cypsilla or achene, topped by the pappus, and the pappus is super useful in dispersal. Note that the pappus is just 2 retrorsally barbed here for animal dispersal, numerous, and formed from capillary bristles, in this case, for wind dispersal. All right, let's take a tour of Ferne Clyffe and look at some composites in the area.
Plant in the Symphiatricum genus. This is a kind of a challenging one, but pass a flower around and everybody can look. But one of the characteristics for this was that it had spreading filaries. And so when you look at this on the underside, look at the filaries and you can see that they're spreading apart. Our local ragweed will give you the hay fever. Has a nice piney smell to it. This is what Kurt was saying is wind dispersed pollen.
Holding it there.
Asteraceum discolor. The underside being
Discolor.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's not
velvety
staining,
pubescent.
prickly like blueberry.
All right, so we're looking at a solid dago right now, and you can see when you pluck one off, pluck a little stem off, and this is made up of a whole bunch of small flowers. So the whole entire stem is composed of many, many flowers. And if you look, there are a whole bunch of aster flowers. All right, thanks for coming out, everybody. I hope the Aster Workshop has been a really enjoyable time, and that in the end you ended up learning something about this awesome family.